Grahamstown Dam supplies Newcastle with 80% of its drinking water. In the coming warmer months, it's a target for a blue-green algae attack. If the algae becomes poisonous and is not treated, it represents a major health risk.
If it was toxic, there's potential either, depending on the type of algae, for liver damage or for brain problems.
There are no problems at the moment, but the Hunter Water Corporation isn't taking any chances. After 6 months of research, this is the result. It's called activated carbon, a byproduct of coal. A bed of carbon is laid in a giant filtration tank. Water runs into the tank, filtering through the material.
It actually, the term's adsorb, it actually takes the toxin into the body of the carbon and retains it there.
Like a sponge, it soaks up the dangerous toxins, leaving the water pure. It's only to be used during times of risk, but such a process doesn't come cheap. Each tonne costs about $3,000. $1.2 million has been spent importing the black gold from the US.
For a while they sat and talked defence, the Soul Star dishing out some cheery advice.
I mean, there's a chance of being hit in the face, but then there's a chance of being a defender. But as long as you stay low, you've got basically 36 inches of hockey stick to pick up a ball.
The Women's Hockey Association staged the two-day clinic.
Set it up.
What?
No, hold it. Work.
More than 50 people turned out to glean some advice from a team of top-line coaches, and a few heard some home truths as well.
It was a terrible pass. Straight onto a stick if you want it there.
Having achieved hockey's ultimate goal, Bowman Sullivan is now nurturing the up-and-comers. She's in an ideal position. She's seen both sides.
I've played hockey since I was 4-year-old, so I know what they're going through and what they're aspiring to be, and hopefully I'll be able to help them through the next 2 days to actually get to where they want to be.
Debbie is now looking towards a coaching position at the Queensland Academy of Sport.
Without doubt, Australia's top marathon greyhound, Don't Cry, is in town to contest tonight's $5,000 Marathon Tyres Classic. The Queenslander holds 3 long-distance records, and on the 8th of August at Penrith was in a class of his own. And Don't Cry is Gary Harley's tip for the Classic, race 7, number 8.
For Joanne Clement, life until 2 years ago was a vicious circle of homelessness and alcohol and drug abuse. 5 months pregnant with son Zachary and still addicted, Joanne realised she needed help. She turned to Mallison House.
They taught me that I was worth something. There was more to life than drugs and alcohol. And they just taught me that they cared about me. And
Run by the Newcastle Youth Service, Mallison House has taken in 32 teenagers in the past 2 years after they had been kicked out of home or run away when they fell pregnant. But now this service, the only one in the Hunter, will close at the end of next month. The facility needs $140,000 annually to operate. It's been surviving on less than half of that, but now the debts have got the better of it. For the past 2 years, Mallison House has operated on public donations and the goodwill of its workers. As for state and federal government funding, well, the coordinator's been told there's simply no money available.
Well, it's difficult, I suppose, to just say to accept that there isn't funding available for this service because it's clearly financially very cost effective. We save the community a lot of money.
And the service has saved young pregnant women a lot of heartache.
I probably would have either put the baby up for adoption or gone back to drugs, and he would be in foster care.
Without Mallison House, the coordinator and clients alike fear heartache will return for many of the young and pregnant as they face the hard decisions as to what to do with their child. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Showing little regard for Oakland's pitching staff, the Blue Jays battered their way to the American League pennant. But down 9-2, the hapless A's had just one last chance. And then Toronto's outfield did it again, this time pocketing a piece of history. And while the Blue Jays celebrated in typical over-the-top style, the Atlanta Braves were staging a thrilling ninth-inning comeback to beat Pittsburgh 3-2, booking a date with the Blue Jays for baseball's grand final, this weekend's World Series.
Spink has been training well the last 2 weeks, but is still treading carefully on his left side, and in today's workout under the watchful eye of manager Bruce Stow, did enough to suggest he's almost ready. But the brilliant Socceroo striker isn't 100% sure.
We'll see how it comes up. I'll have a run tomorrow morning, possibly before the game, and I'm still feeling it. I won't be 100% if I'm playing, but if it comes up all right and I can strike a ball with my left foot comfortably, then more than likely I'll have a run on Friday night.
For manager Stow, a real dilemma. In 2 matches, they haven't scored for a 1-draw, 1-defeat record, and he needs Spink up front, but he won't risk his star signing.
What we've got to look at is he going to do himself any more damage? If he's not, then we've got to play mind games with each other, because I believe the only way he's actually going to get 100% and get it out of his mind is actually get on the park to start with.
In the corresponding game last year, the Breakers belted West Adelaide 3-1 at Mitre 10 Stadium. But this year, the Adelaide side has started like a house on fire, and tomorrow night will start the favourites.
I'd like to get a win under our belts, and as you say, it's only the one defeat of the year, but it's nice to get underway and get confidence in ourselves. And as I said to the players last night, we are now the squad. What you're doing is fighting against the seen rather than the unseen.
Jeff Marlborough had on his paramedics cap today as he rushed to a cardiac arrest case. But Mr Marlborough has other feathers in his cap, union representative, and now, after a statewide election, the first non-ranking officer on the New South Wales Ambulance Board.
It means that the ambulance officers and the support staff across the state will have a ready voice and a ready access to the ambulance board to have their complaints, worries and that sort of thing put to the board and hopefully taken well notice of.
Mr Marlborough has been at the front of the fight in the Hunter for permanent two-man crews at all stations, as well as staffing increases. It's a fight he intends to continue in the boardroom.
I don't expect the board would act in a partisan way, particularly towards Hunter, but those wrongs that are obviously here in the Hunter will certainly be put forward to the board by myself and hopefully answered.
Mr Marlborough is representing 3,000 ambulance staff across New South Wales for at least the next 2 years. Scott Bevan, NBN News.
Uganda is little more than a dot on a map for many, but there are those who feel strongly about the deprivation of human rights in what is still a strife-torn country. Since the terror regime of Idi Amin, other presidents have promised to respect human rights, but Amnesty International claims that thousands of people have been arrested, detained, tortured and some killed by an army acting above the law. Amnesty sees Uganda as a vital example to the rest of Africa and urges Commonwealth countries such as Australia to make a stand for the observation of human rights. Justice Elizabeth Evatt, Chancellor of the University of Newcastle and a member of the United Nations Human Rights Commission, launched a campaign to support the cause by buying and wearing Amnesty International badges next Friday. A lack of government funding was the most tangible reason evident for the Uniting Church's decision to back away from its Hunter Retirement Living Plan for the $4 million redevelopment of the Pettinger wing of the Wallsend Hospital. Described as a win-win scheme by Health Administrator Tim Smythe, the plan would have seen the relocation of Hunter Retirement Living residents to the site to occupy most of the 100 beds available there, but leaving the rest to be filled by public patients currently overloading acute care hospitals. A complication to the plan was a picket line at Wallsend calling for a restoration of surgical services.
The picket line's actions are merely going to result in an empty building sitting there gathering weeds, and I think that's going to be a tragedy for healthcare in the Hunter.
Not getting any joy out of a nursing home for old people not being in there. We'd even compromise. He could have a nursing home in one wing if he would give us the other wing for surgery. We only want 60 beds to start off with.
The issue brings the 14-month standoff to yet another head. If the battle lines are to be redrawn, the picket line has the support of the unions. That support was reaffirmed today at a special meeting of Trades Hall.
As far as I'm concerned, the picket line can stay there for as long as they like, as long as they don't get in the way.
From now on, when people visit Newcastle University's library, they'll be able to catch a glimpse of one of the Hunter Valley's best-known poets. The sculpture of Dr. Roland Robinson was created by well-known local artist Bruce Copping, and tonight university staff and friends of the university gathered to witness the dedication to this talented man. Dr. Robinson, who died earlier this year, was the author of more than 20 books, including 9 poetry. He was awarded the Order of Australia in 1984 and won the Patrick White Award 4 years later. Last year, Dr. Robinson had been made an Honorary Doctor of Letters of the university.
It's called the Saltwater Soak Swimathon, but today it was more like a splashathon. Hundreds taking the dive for a good cause, raising funds for the Children's Leukaemia and Cancer Foundation. Some found the going easy, but others had to be rescued from the cold. More akin to the plush marathon stadium surface, the Knights had trouble adjusting to the conditions in the tug of war, while the NBN team just had trouble. Following the success of today's event, the swimathon should be on again next year. Matthew White, NBN News. Falcon owners and Ford lovers travelled from far and wide for a stroll down memory lane, some giving their 30-year-old cars a real test, a weekend drive from Victoria. More than 70 cars were on show, every one shined and streamlined to perfection. And if you weren't up with the lingo, the answer was in the number plate. It's an expensive hobby, this little beauty fully restored at a cost of about $35,000. The average price, about $10,000 to $12,000. But it wasn't all for show. The cars were judged on a number of aspects, from interior design to originality. Matthew White, NBN News.
I did cheat a little bit and pre-perm this. We're working with a perming technique that we brought.
Done today with Pam's hair is we've already pre-permed it. She's got quite a large regrowth, so we're back so that we get the triangle form that we have to work with.
It has a round face, so I aim for this particular hair to start all over again. But these days.
It's a worldwide get-together on the airwaves. Scouts learning about each other firsthand with the aid of ham radio. From Morisset to Massachusetts, Sydney to Sweden, they exchanged information day and night across the weekend. More than 200 scouts have been through the main radio centre at the first Cardiff Scout Group, which almost didn't take part in the jamboree after a thief snatched the antenna. With that problem solved, the scouts opened their window to the world. The two-day jamboree ends tonight. It may have been a fake crisis, but the action was very real. Bruce Hounslow from Hamilton and Ivan Abriza from the Merry War station were not only representing the Hunter, but also New South Wales, after winning the regional and state competitions last month. They were tested in a mock situation, picking up points for patient treatment, scene assessment and emergency skills. The pair have been training for the competition all year and the hard work paid off. Bruce and Ivan winning the resuscitation and trauma sections to take the overall national championship. Matthew White, NBN News.
The Excellence Award is part of a competition for schools run by Cessnock City Council. This year, 27 schools in the area competed. The students from Nolkabar wasted no time in showing Mayor Marie Callaghan the school album and the work they've completed. The Holy Spirits Infant School at Abermain was awarded second prize, while Bellbird Public School received third. The awards recognise schools which help to protect and maintain the school and community environment.